So, have you ever wanted a standard operating procedure or a manual for influencer marketing? Well, if you have, stay tuned to this episode because we're going to go through one. It's a great episode you don't want to miss, so do stay tuned. Hi there. So on today's episode is an interview I had with Taylor Lagace, who has been on the podcast, prior to talk about influencer marketing because he runs a done for you agency for influencer marketing. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of influencer marketing, both at the startup stage or at a maturity stage, as a quite mature stage in e-commerce and direct to consumer e-commerce. If you're looking to reach out to new audiences, not particularly just as a prize, but for user-generated content for your performance marketing. And what he's essentially done is quite clever because his agency is not able to work with everybody, every kind of business. They have put together pretty much a standard operating procedure or a manual, essentially, like a training manual you can hand over to your head of marketing, for instance, or you could hand over to a team, for instance, and get them going to doing influencer marketing the right way. I have access to the course. There were about 12 modules, 12 key modules, 70 videos, 70 training videos, training manuals, scripts. It's the whole shebang, essentially. And so if you're not willing to pay them 7 to 12 or 15 grand a month, they put together, I think there's like a standard course or a premium course and a platinum course. And they're essentially giving their process to us essentially for peanuts, in my opinion. And they're teaching us how to do influencer marketing the right way, so it has a meaningful effect on your performance marketing long term. I've seen this work in fashion e-commerce. I've seen this work in cosmetics. I've seen this work in the health and fitness niche. I've seen this work in the consumable space, in the CPMG space. So there is a massive opportunity with influencer marketing, and not everybody is doing it well. And a lot of people are getting burnt essentially by just going straight for performance marketing. It comes at a cost, and sometimes the cost can be very, very high. And what you're essentially trying to do is reach new audiences, essentially get potentially new customers at a much lower price point if executed properly, if you take their approach, and also generate continuous content for your performance marketing. We talk about key aspects of the course. I had gone through questions I had about certain sections of the course because before I bring anybody on a podcast, I really like to just understand what they have. Let's say anybody who comes up with a book, I would have read or skimmed through their book. In the same light, anyone who comes up with a course, I would have gone through the course. I went through 50% of the course, and I had lots of questions. I grilled him on those questions. And even if you don't get the course, the content in this podcast, the questions, the depth of questions I ask in this podcast should give you a broad enough idea of what not to do. At least if there's one thing you'll get off the back of this conversation is how not to do influencer marketing the wrong way, essentially. You get some ideas, some pointers as to how to properly approach influencer marketing. He did have a discount for 2X listeners. It's about 20% off. You can grab it. All you need to do is put in the code 2X, just number 2 and letter X. I would let you be the judge of this, essentially. Just listen to this episode. Let me know what you think. Enjoy this episode. It's a really, really brilliant one because you get an operation manual. And if you are very process driven, you'd understand the importance of just having procedures in your business. That is what separates the better businesses or the best businesses from the okay or good businesses. The fact that they have structure, standard operating procedures in place. And this will just fit into how you do influencer marketing. And you could adapt it to your vertical or to your specific market, to a certain hypothesis it throws at you. Essentially, This is pretty much the output of their work, essentially what they do on a day-to-day basis, putting out there for almost free, in my opinion. Anyway, enjoy the episode. Let me know what you think. I shall leave it here. And yeah, I'll catch you on the other side. Cheers. All right, welcome to the 2X eCommerce podcast show. I'm Kunle, your host, and with me we have Taylor Lagace. He needs no introduction. If you go back to season 5, episode 48, I believe, we talked about how to scale influencer marketing as a foundation for performance marketing. Go back to that episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, check it out here. If you're listening to this on the podcast, just go back to the archives, if this is an audio thing, before you actually listen to this episode. And that's because, Taylor is here to talk a bit about influencer marketing and about his course. He has an online course for teams that cannot quite afford their services, their retainer services to actually, do the work. So essentially, we're going to talk about this online course, and we're going to talk about influencer marketing because I've had the opportunity to actually go into to take modules in the course. I've gone through about 50% of the course, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and that's why I have Taylor. And not many people come into the podcast for a second time, as you can imagine. But I'd just like to welcome you, Taylor. Welcome.
I mean, I didn't know you didn't have people on for a second time. I'm becoming quite the frequent flyer with you.
No, not at all. No. Just a few people, just a very, very, very few people, a handful of people. And that's because of just the importance of influencer marketing. So Taylor, for those who don't know about you, could you take, a minute or two to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Taylor Lagace, as Kunle had mentioned. It seems as though he'd probably be able to give you guys a better introduction than I can for myself, but I'm the managing partner of an influencer marketing agency called Kynship, where we exist to create belonging so that each story is celebrated. So how do we do that? By connecting brands with influencers and building them a brand community of ambassadors that will be ultimately flag bearers for the product and service. In order to generate sales. We definitely like to pride ourselves on being judged on ROAS and sales and not likes. Yes, we want to keep that organic conversation going and getting you those, vanity metrics around engagement, impressions, etc. But the main thing we're looking to do through this channel of influencer marketing is driving revenue at the end of the day, because that's what we know everyone cares about. But
fantastic.
Go ahead, Kunle.
So your background, you started out with in an agency, an NFL agency. You saw how just seeding products in the NFL worked. You moved over to Common Thread Creator Collective, I think, where you headed up their influencer, marketing, arm for a performance marketing agency. So you have the best of both worlds, with where you are now.
Yeah. So immediately following college, I worked at, like Kunle had mentioned, Athletes First, where I did marketing on behalf of these macro influencers, Aaron Rodgers, Clay Matthews, Deshaun Watson. And they have a pretty big roster of over 100 people, but that's some of the household names. So did brand endorsement deals on behalf of those kind of guys. Think State Farm meets Aaron Rodgers, Clay Matthews, those sorts of deals. And then transitioned into a world where there's far greater attribution, where I predominantly worked with micro-influencers because we saw greater ROI through doing so, which I'm sure we'll chop it up about that today. But yeah, in tandem with paid media, how influencer marketing was really able to be used in tandem with that to scale revenue for brands. And that ultimately led to Kynship 2.5 years ago.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about why you put this course together. It's an intense course. It's called Influencer Marketing Blueprint by Kynship. You could Google it, and I will link to it in the show notes. But why? What was the purpose of putting it together? It's 12 modules and about 70 videos from my count.
Yeah, well, our team was able to get on so many calls where, unfortunately, and like you alluded to in the beginning, we were not able to work with one another because a lot of the time we're only able to work with brands that are in the 2 million in revenue or above, and we wanted to be able to service companies that were between that 0 to 2 million mark, because at the end of the day, these brands that are between 0 to 2 million, they need influencer marketing just as much as anybody else. And we want to make sure that if people are going to try influencer marketing, they're going to take a swing. We want to make sure they get a hit. There's so much noise in our space of people trying to be market leaders and share their thoughts of what works within influencer marketing, but there's so much noise that is wrong, leading people to try and execute internally on their own, trying and failing, and then they think it's a scam. They cross it out as a channel altogether and say it doesn't work for them. When that's not true, there's so much opportunity to be had here. And so we wanted to make sure that brands that weren't necessarily able to work with us, or that were bigger brands that just had someone internally and they were looking to build it out internally, we wanted to be able to service them as well and give them a playbook, A to Z, how to execute this. And all they would have to do is follow the content within our course to be able to do so.
Okay, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So these really are standard operating procedures. So soaps for organizations, where small or big, looking to just do influencer marketing right. Okay. So how is it structured? So from my perspective, you there's this pyramid you talk about. Do you want to shed a bit more light on just the pillars required to execute influencer marketing the right way?
Yeah, so the pyramid that Kunle is alluding to is basically step 1 through 4 of the life cycle of an influencer and the way that you work with them. So how do you begin the relationship? How do you make your first impression? How do you connect and have that first touch point be executed? We do that through product seeding. And I'm sure Kunle and I will dive deeper into that. As a second touch point of this process, we end up seeing organic posts go live from these influencers. So they're posting organically and talking about your product or service. From there, we want to be able to repurpose their content and use their content that they're creating for our brand within paid media. And so we're repurposing that into paid media as well through Facebook ads, Instagram ads, other social paid efforts that you guys are using, whether that be TikTok, Snapchat, whatever it may be, but especially on Facebook and Instagram ads. And then finally, identifying and seeing who are our best performers, not only organically, but through paid media from the content that they're posting that we're using through paid, and then identifying who are our flag bearers, who are our brand ambassadors that we want to build even deeper relationships with. So we start off by mass seeding a lot of micro influencers to begin with. It's very much so a micro to macro type approach. See which of these people end up posting free of cost of their own free will because they're brand adopters of the product, and then repurposing that content again, seeing who performs best before we actually build deeper relationships with these people.
Interesting. Seeding, organic posts, paid media, and then flag bearers who are pretty much almost representatives of your brand at the fore because they've been best performers just off the back of all that testing that's been going on
100%.
below the fold. Okay, so let's talk about seeding. What is product seeding and how can it be done well? A lot of people who get into influencer marketing are like, we tried this influencer, we paid them $2,000 and we didn't get anything. They used the code. There are all sorts of stories as you alluded to, but what exactly is product seeding? You always seem to talk about doing this en masse. I can't pay 200 people or 1,000 potential influencers or 500 potential influencers whatever $1,000 or what have you. What's your approach to product seeding?
Yeah, I mean, what I want to say right off the bat is just the influencer pay for post model is dead. It's absolutely dead. I wouldn't do it. There's a better way. Basically, in how we partner with the brands that we come alongside, we're identifying and reaching out to 500 influencers to begin with. And that sounds like a lot, but I guess another thing I'll say, just to put this in the right frame of mind for you guys, like think about how much you would need, whether you went through an agency or you went straight to 30 influencers. What would you pay the agency or these people directly? 30 unique micro influencers. What I mean by micro influencer, 10K to 150K in following. What would you pay for them to post 2 to 3 pieces of media each socially, organically? And as well as having usage rights to repurpose that content into your paid efforts. I would say you're looking at a minimum price point of 30K, and I think that is really conservative, and it would probably be closer to 50K if you're working with an agency and you're not doing all the hustle on your own and negotiating these price points down. What if our process leads you to be able to do and get that many unique influencers posting? We see that many through our process of just seeding the product out to 100 people. So we reach out and identified the 500 people with this no strings attached message, product seeding, like you're saying, Kunle, where we say, hey, Kunle, we think you're a great brand fit. We think you'd absolutely love the product that we have to offer. We love the content that you consistently put out. So just send us your address and we'll get this product right out to you. And again, no strings attached. We have no expectation of you to post whatsoever. At a minimum, we see 100 people of those 500 opt in to receive the product. And then from those 100 people that we end up sending product to, I would recommend creating an unboxing experience for them using a seeding card. There's a great partner that we use called ARKA, A-R-K-A, that do unboxing experiences at really inexpensive rates. We create an unboxing experience because it lends itself incredibly well to this being posted about. And then we see a minimum of 30 influencers end up posting an average of 2 to 3 pieces of media each. So 60 to 90 assets being posted by 30 influencers, all for the cost of the COGS of 100 of your products. And again, these are the minimum numbers we're seeing. And so it's way cheap. So 100, let's say your COGS of your product is 50, Kunle, like 100 times 50 is $5,000 instead of $30,000 at a minimum for this amount of content and posts. And again, you get full usage rights for it too. That was a really long-winded answer, but that's
it makes sense. It makes sense. I'm just doing the math here of 30 out of 500, which is about 6%. So you send out 500 emails. 100 people come back to you saying yes, we'd love to do it, or 500 DMs, what have you. Reach out to 500 people. At the end of the day, about 30 30 people, 30 influencers will post, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
so 30 out of the 100.
Exactly.
So do you have any
you
follow-up
can see a
sequence?
minimum? Yes, we do. So a minimum of like 20% will opt in to receive the product. And then a minimum of 30% of the people that opt in will end up posting.
Okay, so these are all minimums. Okay.
These are all minimums as well. These are the minimums.
And if your product is like a world first, then you'd probably see higher stuff. The uniqueness of your product actually will have an effect. Okay, so yeah. So from that, do you have any follow-up sequence from at each stage? So with the 500, do you just send it once and forget, or
No. These people are extremely busy, and they get a lot of outreaches sent their way. One, though, you will stand out from this no strings attached messages because they're so used to getting mass messages sent to them about, hey, we'll send you this product in exchange for a post, very transactional. We'll send you this product and some compensation in exchange for a post, very transactional. It's like very spammy, and it's very redundant and oversaturated, and they're used to getting that. So you will stand out with this message, but they are busy. This is their livelihood. People are constantly reaching out to them. So we do have a 5 follow-up flow, 2 over DM on Instagram, 2 over email. A majority of them have their emails linked in their Instagram, so that's where you can find them. And then if we still don't get a response after that, we're going to comment on their most recent post saying, hey, check out your inbox for a brand opportunity.
Okay.
So that's
do you do that from the brand
in front of them. Yes.
Do you do that from the brand handle or from like an individual?
The brand handle. We want to make sure that these relationships are built and exist within the brand because that's where they're going to be most effective at the end of the day. We don't want to own the relationships as an agency. We're not a gatekeeper to those relationships. We want them to exist in-house. Super
interesting. Super interesting. And then you talk about the unboxing experience. Why is it so important? And could you just break down this ARKA, this ARKA unboxing, solution you just alluded to, a moment ago?
Yeah, unboxing experiences are huge. Just think about it. How can you this is the question that I always position to our clients, and we absorb this cost. They're a white labeled partner with our business. We just provide a part of the service that we offer to our clients. But ARKA is amazing because the question you want to think about, how can I create an experience that is post-worthy? How can I create an experience for this influencer? If I'm going to send them my product, what will make them more likely to post? If it's just in this basic like packaging that you send to everybody else, maybe you have a great unboxing experience that you send all your customers. That would actually be great, and it's huge for brand equity. You probably get a good amount of organic social from your UGC, from everyday users of your product. But for influencers specifically, you just need to answer that question. Would a basic package that you send them, or would a nice unboxing experience with a seating card that makes it look very unique and custom to them, that makes them feel special? Which of those two options would lend itself to a greater percentage of people posting out of the people that you send the product to? Definitely the unboxing experience, and we've seen that time and time again.
Absolutely. It's all about the experience, really. It's all about the experience. Um, so in the post notes, you give them nudges on what to do, like instructions, here's how to do it. You give them any guidelines of sorts? Do you just nudge them a little bit?
Great question. So that is exactly, so again, there's no strings attached philosophy is how we want to begin the relationships with these influencers. And we harp on that so much within the course and just in our everyday with our clients. So if we were to nudge them in any sort of capacity about, hey, this is what you need, if you're going to post about us, this is what you say, like, we don't use that language at all, but that is exactly what the seating card is for. On that seating card, basically, you're letting them know who you are. You're letting them know the value adds of this product. You're letting them know everything that they do need to know. If they were going to post, this is what they would say, but you're not saying anything about them posting, because again, you want to lean into, this is a free gift. We're building this relationship on giving, not asking, no strings attached, just completely leaning into that. And what you see time and time again is like these people are posting about how you even reached out to them. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this brand just wanted to gift me for no reason, just because they loved the content that I was putting out. And then they just go on about the product, and then they become brand ambassadors and end up posting free of cost multiple times thereafter. So we don't say anything about posting per se, but we give them everything they need and equip them with the information in order to talk about it in the way that we want them to if they were going to.
Yeah, so in the very high end of the scale, in regards to celebrities and just high fashion, I've seen instances where celebrities have been gifted, an item like a pair of slippers, for instance, but that is coupled with very custom, packaging in terms of like a box, personalized, hyper personalized, handwritten, and a lot of the times they will pair their product up with something of equal opulence. So it could be a special bottle of champagne or what have you, and is that further lower down the scale for $100 dollar priced items or £100 priced items? Would you suggest pairing things up, like let's say you're selling like yoga apparel, just giving them a yoga mat? This is just me speaking off the top of my head, right? But would you just hone in on the product, or would you complement the product to deliver some sort of experience that would just encourage them to just grab their phones essentially and say, hey, this is what I got from brand X?
For sure. As much as you're willing to give, Kunle, I would do that 100%. Just make sure it's like non-competitive products and services that you're incorporating into this experience. But yeah, to give you an example, like one of the brands that we came alongside that didn't have a tangible product, a physical product, it was a service, it was an app that basically was an app that was a fitness application, and you could like virtually run, like you can track out mileage. Like if I wanted to run across England, like the app allowed you to map out like the distance of that, and you can run it on this app and you can do a virtual simulation. But there was no physical product, it was just an app. But we sent out headphones for people to tune into this app while they ran, and so that's what we actually ended up physically sending to them to enhance this experience that they would ultimately have with this fitness app. But doing things like that all the time is a great way to build deeper relationships with these people in a unique way. A lot of the time what we ultimately end up doing, Kunle, is after like at least 3 months of seeding, where if you go back to the way that we service our clients, where we're reaching out to 500 each month, at the end of those 3 months we've reached out to 1,500 people. We've seen 300 people receive the product at a minimum, and then we've seen 90 people at a minimum end up posting 180 to 270 assets. So at that point, we have a good core community of influencers posting organically and allowing us to test all this content in paid media as well. And so at that mark, we're able to like assess and analyze all of this content, all of these influencers, and who are our top performers. Who is it worth building deeper relationship with at this point, to go back and actually do a brand ambassador, flag bearer type, contractualized type relationship with. You can either go into a contractual arrangement with them, or you can just send them another one of your product SKUs and say, hey, like here's it, we really appreciate all the love that you're showing us on social. We want to send you another gift, no strings attached. We think you'd really love this product. And then maybe you make it an even more expansive gifting experience at that point if you don't want to create this massive, expansive gifting experience right from the jump. Maybe you do that for your core people that create great content that crushes for you ultimately. We definitely do that a lot.
It makes a lot of sense. Let's take this a step back, because I didn't really sort of drill you in this step, which is how do you identify the influencers that would likely give you the highest success rate, just based on psychographics, I guess, your brand. What steps do you take as an agency to ensure that your target it's a one hit essentially with targeting?
Definitely. So the number one lens we look through in identifying influencers is their video content creation ability. Can these people jump on camera and speak to the value adds of my product? Ultimately, like the question you need to be able to answer, if this person spoke on camera about my product or service, my brand, would I feel confident that they'd be able to convert end viewers? Would they convert me into a sale? Can they convince me? Are they an authentic product adopter? Do they actually genuinely love my brand? And can they sell it? And so the lens that we're looking through is we want to answer the questions of, can they capture my attention in the first 3 seconds of a video? Can they communicate the value adds of this product clearly? Are they charismatic? Are they thumb stopping? So answering these questions when looking at their content is really critical, because again, that's what's going to lead to organic success, but even more importantly when scaling it through paid media to ultimately convert into revenue and dollars on that channel as well. So we're obviously going to make sure they're a brand fit, persona wise, the content that they're posting about, what they're talking about, because that's ultimately how we're identifying the people that we need to be seeing this product to, that will seamlessly integrate itself into their feed and make them most likely to post about it. So we're going to make sure that they're a persona fit and a demographic fit, but the number one lens we're looking through is that video content creation ability and answering all those questions I laid out.
Okay, so does that mean that from a targeting standpoint, you will mix and match micro, macro, and celebrities, or do you still stick to one of the three?
Great question. So we allow the brand some room to choose this. We concede all three categories, but what I would recommend is micro influencers 100%. Why? Especially when doing product seeding. So why? Greater response rate right off the jump. On a per follower basis, they have more engagement, more reach. There's no managers or agents getting involved where they're incentivized to negotiate a price point, because that's how they get paid, and they typically are gatekeepers to those people and don't let you do anything with them and make sure the influencers don't post if you're not paying them. So, and then when you follow up with these people for usage rights to the content, if there's a manager or agent involved, or they have if they're not a micro influencer, that's typically a hiked up cost as well, because they're savvy enough to know that their content is the most valuable piece of the party here. And so I would reach out to micro influencers 100% of the time. Again, you're just gonna get so much more bang for your buck. Greater response rate, greater opt-in. I would take 10 micros over 1 macro any day of the week. Like I'm saying, greater engagement, greater reach, greater content being posted, and then all of that content being able to be repurposed and owned across your other redistribution channels. So I would do micro influencers all the way.
Yeah, and another point just to add to what you said about micro influencers, there are a lot of micro influencers putting out good work, but they haven't quite seen the traction. So from a content creation standpoint, some micro influencers, actually produce better content than their macro equivalents in
100%. 100%. And I love that you just brought up niches. Micro influencers, a lot of the time, people are only following them for 1 to 2 reasons, right? And so you can really get a niche target audience that you're trying to get your product or service in front of, in comparison to a macro with hundreds of thousands, millions of followers, where they're getting followed for a variety of different reasons. And that part of their audience that they have, maybe only 100,000 of those people out of the million, are the people that you're trying to get your product or service in front of at the end of the day. So why wouldn't you just use somebody with 100,000 in the first place?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of listeners to this podcast are in the performance marketing space, and they're very numbers driven. Besides the creatives, they're numbers. They're from I will talk about it from a ROAS standpoint or from a MER standpoint, but they're also numbers driven from an audience, targeting standpoint. With your stint at your stint with Common Thread Collective, and also at Kynship, working with, I'm sure you're working with a ton of performance, either departments or agencies, in regards to influencer seeding. What baseline numbers do you want to kind of see to be comfortable enough to say, okay, we have a strong enough audience. We've generated a strong enough audience from influencer seeding, just influencer marketing in general, all of what you've said in the pyramid, in order to say, okay, let's turn on the engine for performance marketing.
Yeah, I mean, we're performance marketers at the end of the day as well, and we run paid media as an agency. So a lot of the time we do seeding in tandem with paid media, and that's the service offering that we provide to the clients that we're coming alongside. If they already have if they have internal media buyers or they have an outsourced agency that they use already, obviously we come alongside them and offer best practices on how to implement this influencer content. But we do love to be able to have control of that, because at the end of the day, like I'm saying, Kunle, the 500 influencer outreach per month ultimately leads to 60 to 90 assets, unique assets. And we provide iterations on those assets where if the video is 10 to 20 seconds, we provide that video at 2 different timestamps. We understand the importance of the first 3 seconds of the video and how that lends itself to different performance in the ad accounts. If it's 20 seconds plus, we provide that in 3 different iterations at 3 different timestamps. So ultimately, each month, it's 60 to 90 unique assets, but you're getting over 100 pieces of content to get live in the ad account every month. So with any typical agency out there that's running paid media, I would say 90% of agencies out there right now are not launching any more than 5 ads per week. And we're getting in 100 new ads per month. And so you need to be able to understand how to do that. And you just need to understand the tool and leaning into Facebook machine learning system at the end of the day. But what this is able to provide performance marketers, what I would say by doing influencer seeding in tandem with paid media, if you're one of those brands that's only launching 5 ads per week, and you're hitting good performance, let's say you're spending $100,000 in ads at a 2 ROAS, or you're spending $50,000 in spend at a 2 ROAS, whatever it is, we're incredibly confident implementing this amount of content into your paid media efforts will double the amount of spend that you're spending at the same level of performance, if not give you a lift. Because Facebook, again, once you give it more to work with, you're able to identify really great content that performs well within your paid efforts, and then they will allocate all the spend within those CBO campaigns behind the top performers and scale those efforts from there.
Yeah, you just throw them into your dynamic creatives also.
Exactly.
Okay. Another question I have is, how do you, obviously it's a non-instructional agreement. Initially that there's actually no agreement initially. It's like, here's a product, we're giving it to you for free. How do you sort of take ownership legally from a legal standpoint to reuse the content they've put out organically to their followers?
Man, I'm giving you guys the cheat codes right here, I'm telling you. Okay, so that's the communication.
Questions.
Yeah, no, you're asking the good ones. So that's definitely a need. Don't repurpose any of this unless you have the rights to it. But like I'm saying, that's one of the main reasons we're reaching out to micro influencers, because they're typically flattered. Because again, our first touch point with them was this no strings attached message, where we're starting the relationship in a really good way and making a great first impression. And so once they post, or by the way, it's also worth mentioning, we look at when every single influencer receives the product on our back end. We have a Shopify seeding app like you had alluded to, so we're able to see when these products are being delivered. If they do not post within the first 24 to 48 hours, we do send them a message saying, hey, really hope that you're loving this product, and that you appreciate whatever it is. Just send them a little bit of a note without saying, hey, post about us. Like, you're giving them a nudge, you're getting back in front of them. Like, maybe they end up posting about you. We've seen that work at times to give them that extra nudge. Once they do post, whether we've sent them that nudge or not, we're sending a message saying, hey, Kunle, we're so glad that you love the gift that we sent you, that you're willing to share this content with your audience. We would love to be able to share this content with our audiences as well. Can we have the rights to use this content organically as well as in paid media for 30 days? So we begin with 30 days. We don't start we ask for usage rights for 30 days. Because when you ask for ownership and perpetuity right at the jump, that sparks, I need to negotiate like something here. It's not, this message is not aggressive at all. And we see almost, I can't even tell you, I haven't personally seen a no to this, but I'll conservatively say 90% of people say yes. These people are just like, yeah, 100%. You've started the relationship in the right way. You're not asking too much of an aggressive ask at that point. You've built good rapport at this point, and a majority of them grant that access and grant you the ability to use that. After those 30 days, that is more than enough time to sift through which of the pieces of content out of the 180 to 270 that you receive from those efforts are the top performers, which ones got all of the spend. And at that point, you just go back to them after the 30 days are up. Hey, Kunle, like, we really appreciate you allowing us to use this content in the last 30 days. We'd love to be able to actually own this content. And then literally offer them $150 for it at that point. And the most you'll go back and forth with them and ultimately pay them is $500. Start at $150, anchor yourself there. The highest you'll end up paying is $500, but at that point, that piece of content over the last 30 days made you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how much you're spending in Facebook ads.
Awesome. You have these templates in the course. I could see quite nicely, outlined there. Taylor, thanks for that again. You're always, delivering. So yeah, it's in the negotiation part of the course, which is really good. You have an entire part of outreach templates and then negotiations. Okay, what are your thoughts on TikTok at the moment? Obviously, here before I get your thoughts, I always like to throw out my thoughts. So I think TikTok, just the way content is created in TikTok is differs from Instagram or Facebook. And my thoughts are like it's very story oriented, and it lends itself very much with audio. So people on TikTok tend to expect to switch on the audio. It's just like in your face when you turn on the TikTok app. It's just the audio just blasts out. Unlike what Facebook has done with its main app, Facebook and Instagram, where you're used to kind of turning sound off, and that's why subtitles have always been such a big thing, or just captioning have always been a very, very critical thing with Facebook. And so with that, you have voice, this voice capability. And there are lots of founders on TikTok, telling their stories, this zero to hero stories that just get people so emotive to, wanting to support, the brand. Unlike, Instagram and Facebook, which is quite showy, very demo-y. Do you agree with what I said? And if you agree, then should your approach to influencer marketing with TikTok creators be different to Instagram and Facebook influencers in that sense?
TikTok's my favorite platform out right now, 100%. That TikTok as a placement organically is my favorite. Facebook still the most sophisticated platform to run ads on in order to convert sales, but organically speaking, IG story placements as well as TikTok posts are my favorite placements organically to work with influencers. So yes, we're set philosophy-wise, and how we're building relationships with these people remain the same. We're still sending them product no strings attached, whether they post on their Instagram story or their TikTok. I'm fine with either at the end of the day, but I actually do love it when they post on TikTok, just because on majority of these social platforms right now, the algorithms are incredibly limited. Like, for example, on Instagram or Facebook, you're only able, if a person posts, that influencer, if they have 100,000 followers, they're typically only able to reach 10% of their audience. So 10,000 followers end up seeing it and get it as an impression, and then 2 to 3% on average end up engaging with it. So 2 to 3,000 people out of the 100,000. When it comes to TikTok, though, when people post organically, they're able to reach far more than 10% of their audience, in a way where you end up seeing the amount of impressions and engagement a lot of the time be like 10x the amount of people that follow them. And this is the only platform that is enabled to transcend an audience in that way. And my favorite, and I haven't even alluded, and that's just organically, my favorite part of this content, a lot of these creators meet every checkbox I'm looking to check off when it comes to the lens I'm looking through and the video content creation abilities. So these videos are quick hitters. These videos are
quick, they're high paced, high tempo.
They grab your attention right away, right? They're thumb stopping. And we've seen these TikTok videos, when repurposing it, when we use that platform Mighty Scout to download this content and then repurpose it into paid media. And even though we're distributing the content from TikTok now into Facebook and Instagram ads, it works all the same. Nonetheless, regardless, even if it's on a different platform. So I love TikTok, man. I'm a big fan.
Human to human, It's at the end of the day, you're trying to reach humans, with the targeting. It's interesting because it's a very creator first platform that's encouraged, everyone to be creators, anyone who uses their platform. And I just find it really, really fascinating as a platform. And as you just said, in regards to the organic potential of TikTok, a lot of people miss that out, in the entire experience.
It has the most organic potential in the game. The only thing it's missing right now is Instagram Stories is able to direct traffic right to your website through that swipe up link. TikTok still needs to figure that out to go straight from a post to landing pages. But that's from the organic standpoint of impressions, engagement, reach. You're gonna get the most out of TikTok for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, let's wrap this up. Let's just go straight into the last bit of what you talked about, which are the flag bearers. You have talked about identification of the best performers, essentially, because all you're doing is testing, and the results of your test, essentially will reveal top performers. So long term, how do you nurture these relationships to be beneficial for both you and the influencer, as an e-com or D2C brand?
Yeah, so I'll just give you an example. So this brand called Animal House Fitness, at this point, and I posted about this on Twitter today, at this point we've reached out to just over 1,000 influencers. We've sent product to about just over 500 influencers, and we've seen 350 influencers post a total of 1,250 pieces of media. And so that's above the minimums that I went over earlier, and how it breaks out.
Very well.
And how it shakes out. Yeah, about half the people opted in to receive this product, and then about more than half of those people ended up posting, and then an average of 3 to 4 pieces of media were posted by them instead of 2 to 3. But we've seen a lot of influencers talk about them organically, as well as almost all this content being repurposed into paid media. And it ultimately got this knees over toes guy is an influencer who's really adopted this product. He's one guy who's posted about this brand over 100 times. And then Joe Rogan had him on his podcast, and now Joe Rogan's organically talking about this brand on his podcast. He's done it twice now. And so those are 2 influencers, as well as 10 to 15 others that we're now sending, custom products to, with their initials engraved on the product. We're doing very unique customizations and send them an additional piece of the product that the brand has to offer. We're sending them handwritten notes. But then once it comes to actually contractualizing these people in a deeper way, we want to pay them for their efforts. We want to give them a more hands-on creative brief based on what's worked in the ad account, what's worked organically. So is it a testimonial type video? Is it an unboxing video? What is it that has really scaled the paid media efforts? And then give them a creative brief with those sorts of scenes so we can get more of that content from them, and then pay them for their efforts. But what I will say is, when you start this relationship in this way, when you pay them, you're going to get a significantly decreased price point, because you have that relationship built with them, and you know they're a brand lover. If you're working with a person that loves your brand, loves your product, they're going to want to work with you, and they're going to give you a discounted rate. We've seen it time and time again. But that's what we're going back to them for. We're going to activate them organically. We're going to get a lot more video content based off what's worked and scaled in our paid media efforts, and then pay them for it. But you will get a discounted rate.
Yeah, the other thing is that their worth, so they've outperformed, every other, influencer. So even just subconsciously, your offer to them will, should be reasonable, and you will then get a discount off the back of it. So it makes a lot of sense. So the art of scaling case study you talked about, which I'll link to in the show notes, because I did catch it on Twitter today. I actually commented on it on Twitter. They're in the gym, in the health and fitness niche. Are you seeing more traction in specific sectors or verticals, so like cosmetics, for instance? I can imagine how, because I see so many unboxing videos on YouTube, for instance, with cosmetics. Do some verticals, D2C verticals that is, actually lend themselves better to like the influencer seeding model, or is it just free for all, essentially?
I would say, one, this is from a higher level instead of like an industry breakdown. Physical products lend itself incredibly well to this sort of approach of gifting, no strings attached. Obviously, when you think of product seeding, you're thinking of a physical product, but we do this with services, where we're saying, hey, Kunle, we want to gift you this service free of cost, no strings attached. But at the end of the day, what's postable is a physical product. So we've seen wearable products do incredibly well, things that they can try on and wear if they can get that a part of their weekly routine of what they actually wear on their bodies. Consumables do incredibly well if you can, like we're doing a brand that is a blended ingredient package, and we've sent them a lot more, like a week's worth of them, if not more. What I would also say is you want to be able to over deliver on what you're sending them. So if you're a consumable product, don't just send them, if you're a protein bar, don't just send them one protein bar. You're probably not going to get posted about. I would send them as many days worth as you're able to afford. And so if you're sending product to 100 influencers and you can't afford to send 100 influencers 5 products each, send 20 influencers 5 products at the end of the day. It's going to go a lot further. So if you're a consumable, send more than just one product. Send them a week's worth at a minimum to really get it a part of their routine at that point. Allow them to actually try it and see if they like it, a part of their weekly rhythm. So consumables do good, wearables do good. But at the end of the day, if you're a physical product in of itself, like those work incredibly well. Like you alluded to, cosmetics, they can wear it, they can do makeup tutorials, etc. But it really, all products, just as long they're a physical product that we can seed and send them.
Amazing, Taylor. I think that about wraps this one up. I don't want you to give the entire course on this podcast,
but we're an open book.
But for those who want to find out more, how do they get? I'll link to it in the show notes anyway. And you're offering listeners you have a special offer for listeners, right?
You got the special offer for influencers because of me and Kunle's relationship here. But yeah, we're going to give Kunle and all the listeners of his podcast a 20% discount off each of the 3 tiers. But we definitely recommend going with the middle tier that we have to offer with the templates that are included in on that.
Do you mind shedding a bit more light on the tiers? Just people kind of understand. You have 3 tiers. You have a basic. You have a pro, I think. So you have a basic, a premium, and a platinum. So with your standard, you get the course videos only. This is me reading it off the back. For the premium, you get the video template worksheets, which are pretty much standard operation procedures, and Loom videos. So these are walkthroughs, full on walkthroughs. And then for the platinum, you get the course templates, worksheets, video. You join a Slack channel and you get consulting call. How many consulting calls you get off the back of the platinum?
2.
2. Okay, awesome.
The main value out of that is the community that you're able to be a part of in that Slack group where you're able to get real-time responses.
Makes sense. You could just, exchange ideas. Yeah, so Taylor, it's been an absolute pleasure. I will link to the show notes. And for those of you who want 20% off this course, the code is just 2x. I would just link to it in the show notes. It's 2x. It's an incredible course. I have personally, gone through about 50% of the course already, and I'm just, going through more, and that's why I was able to ask these questions in more detail. Taylor, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, man, and I hope to see you again on the podcast at some point in the future.
Oh man, I would love to come back on too. I appreciate you having me. Always a pleasure.
Cheers. Thanks.